Hi, I'm Shaun Ludlow. I'm a drummer, drum teacher, comic collector, human being. This is the seventh and final lesson in my Ghost Note drum series, and I'm so happy that it's getting out there. And I really hope that you're enjoying it. If you haven't watched the previous episodes in this series, I really recommend you do before watching this one. They're linked in the description, and I'm pretty sure they'll be somewhere on the screen as well. Before I begin this lesson, I just want to let you know that I have loved every minute of making this series, even though I had a very strict time deadline to do it, and it was very stressful. And also, there is a PDF for every single lesson in the description of this video, and each lesson has its own PDF in the description as well. So download those so that you can practice them along to the videos and also practice them in the future. It's really great to come back to these things and see how you're improving, and make sure that you're keeping a practice diary so that you know just how much you are improving as well. If you've enjoyed this series, please let me know in the comments. It'd be great to know exactly what you're thinking about this series. And like and subscribe. There's bound to be more content, and if this series goes down well, I'm definitely going to make another one because I've really enjoyed making it. And if I don't make another one, I'm going to continue making drum videos. I have done for the past 3 years, and I'm not going to stop now. If you would like to book some drum lessons, you can go through to the link in the description, or you can email me at ludlowdrumtuition@gmail.com, and I will respond as soon as possible, and we can sort out possibly Skype lessons or in-person lessons if you are in the Surrey, England area. Now let's get into the exercises. Number one has a 16th note hi-hat pattern with an open hi-hat on the and of every beat. Then we have the usual 2 and 4 backbeat on the snare drum, some bass drum placements here and there, and some ghost notes sprinkled in to sound cool. So here it is for you at a slow, medium, and fast tempo. This next groove, exercise number 2, is a little different to any of the ones we've done previously. We have a jab punch jab, so that's a ghost note followed by an accent note followed by a ghost note, which you'll know if you've seen some of the first episodes in this series. And then we have 16th note triplets, moving, and we are going to move your right hand over from the hi-hat to the snare drum on beat 4 instead of your left hand. So here is exercise number 2 for you. Now the third exercise is nice and simple, but somehow I didn't cover it in the previous episodes, so I figured we'd go over it here. What you want to do is play the nice simple groove, but for all of the accents, you're going to move your right hand over from the hi-hat to the snare drum, instead of doing the accents with your left hand. Okay, so now that you have that down and moving your right hand over from the hi-hat to the snare drum, we can make it a bit more interesting and a bit more suited to an advanced player by adding in some more complicated bass drum patterns and some more complicated ghost note patterns to it. Here is exercise number 4. So exercise number 5 is an advanced groove incorporating the jab, punch, jab pattern, much like an earlier groove. You need to make sure that you keep your hi-hat steady 8th notes throughout, and this time we're accenting with the left hand again instead of the right hand. To pull this groove off properly, you really need to focus on the contrasting dynamics of the jab and punches. You want to make those ghost notes nice and quiet and make those accents really stand out. Okay, so number 6 is a combination of a few grooves from previous lessons. So we have an accent on beat 2, followed by 3 16th note ghost notes, and then we have a jab, punch, jab around beat 4. As well as that, we have an open hi-hat on beat 1, and make sure that you're accenting the quarter notes. Okay, so now we're going to take a little break from exercises and we're going to go over some James Brown grooves. And these are classics from the drummers Clyde Stubblefield and John Jabbo Starks, who you really need to look out for. Unfortunately, they've passed away, but go find them, find videos of them, and really learn from the past, because they are fundamental in almost all modern music today and essentially created funk. So this first groove, exercise number 7, is everyone's favorite Sex Machine. This song is around 108 BPM, but the band often sped it up live, much like James Brown would always do. If you want to see a full cover of this song, I have an old cover of it that I did on my channel, and I'll put the link in the description. The notation on the screen and on the PDF is the main groove throughout the song, but in usual James Brown fashion, it doesn't stay exactly the same throughout. So don't worry about adding in or changing some little ghost note things and just little bits here and there, as long as you're maintaining the overall sound of the groove. So the accents are on the backbeat, 2 and 4, and then we have an open hi-hat on the and of 1 and the and of 3. Here's what it sounds like slowly and up to speed. So this next track is a groove that goes over 2 bars, exercises 8 and 9, and it's the song Cold Sweat, which is another James Brown song, and it's often credited as being the song that essentially invented funk. So it's a classic, and it's one that you should definitely know if you're into funk playing. The tempo for this one is around 112 BPM, and much like the last groove, we have open hi-hats on the 1 and 3 in both bars. Watch out for the accents on the snare, as it's on the and of 4 instead of the 4. And that's basically what makes this groove have such a signature sound, and it's so addictive to play. There are lots more songs out there from James Brown and many other artists, in fact, probably every artist, that really use ghost notes a lot. And if they don't use ghost notes, I'm sure you can add some ghost notes in there and make it sound cool. Please feel free to video yourself playing any of the grooves in this series, or any of your favourite grooves where you're adding ghost notes, or just playing the ghost notes that were already in the song, and send them to me on my social media, or put the link in the comments below, as I'm sure other people would happily enjoy seeing them as well. So exercise number 10 has an open hi-hat on beats 1 and 2, which are also accented, and then it transitions from 16th notes to 8th notes triplets on beat 2. And that can really easily throw people off. So you want to practice going from those straight 16th notes to those 8th note triplets before doing this. Once you've got that timing down, then we can move on to this. Really watch out for the ghost note, which is then followed by an accent note, and then the 2 triplet ghost notes. That will really throw you off at first. So that's the first half of this groove, which is complicated. The second half is really fun and can be used as a fill as well. So we have a jab punch ghost note pattern, but this time it's on the toms instead of just the snare drum. The first one is on the high tom, and then it's on the floor tom. And really make sure that you accent the second one. It's a jab punch, remember? You want to make sure that punch is very audible on the toms. Also, you want to accent the correct hi-hat and kicks that separate them. So here's number 10 for you. Exercise number 11 is a great advanced groove that is based around the toms, the floor tom specifically. So you have your left foot keeping time with 8th notes throughout, nice and simple, and then you're playing toms instead of the cymbals with your right hand. You want to watch out for the strange accent pattern, as we have accents on 2 and 4 as usual, but then also the and of 3. Make sure you're playing the snare and the floor in unison, simultaneously, but obviously ghost notes on the snare and normal notes on the floor tom throughout, except for the first accent. Also, don't play the tom, obviously, on the ghost notes, which are on their own on the snare. So this is exercise number 11, and I'll play it for you slow, medium, and fast. So before I debrief you and we end this series, I thought I should probably show you how to implement ghost notes into a basic jazz groove, as somehow we haven't gone over that. And bear in mind, this is a basic jazz groove, and it's just a basic way of putting ghost notes into it, and you really should dig deeper into that elsewhere, because it's a whole new world of playing when you get into jazz and world rhythms as well. So for this exercise, we have a basic jazz ride pattern, with pedaled hi-hat on 2 and 4, which is common in most jazz, and then we have a feathered bass drum 4 to the floor. Feathered bass drum essentially means just playing the bass drum so it can barely be heard. It's meant to be felt more than heard. On this electric kit, it's slightly difficult to get it very quiet, because the sensors can sometimes not pick it up, so I might be playing it a little bit louder than you would normally do. Once you have the ride pattern, the hi-hat with the foot, and the feathered bass drum down, then you want to start adding in ghost notes. You can add them literally anywhere you want, but obviously this is one example of how I would add them to a groove. So here is exercise number 12. Well, that's all the exercises done. You have now officially finished the entire series that I've made for you. And if you have played through all of them and you've been practicing them, then by now you should know how to implement ghost notes into some basic grooves, playing ghost notes within rudiments, shuffles, linear drumming, odd and compound time, and just in general. Now these exercises can be incorporated into any genre. And I do recommend that you add them into your playing, whether it be in a band, cover scenario, or just playing at home. Now all of these exercises throughout these lessons have only been a very small amount of content, and they are just some fundamental ways of incorporating ghost notes into these various places. I really do recommend you go and research further, and throughout the videos I have obviously recommended some resources you can use, but there's so many out there, and with the internet today, you just Google what you want to find, and I am sure you will find some things that you can buy, or even some free stuff online. But I do recommend you really push yourself, go further, don't just stop here. I really appreciate you sticking with it through to the end and watching this whole video to this point. If you want to support me, just like and subscribe, share it with your friends, drop me an email or a comment below telling me how you feel about this lesson, and even if you have advice, I'm open to change. Obviously, this is my first time making a video series like this, and if you have recommendations or you have advice, please give it to me. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.